Codemasters Software Company Limited, or Codemasters, is a British video game developer and publisher founded by David Darling and his brother Richard in 1986. Headquartered in Southam, Warwickshire, Codemasters is one of the oldest surviving British game studios, and in 2005 was named the top independent games developer by Develop magazine. History. Founded in 1986 by Richard and David Darling, Codemasters established themselves in the growing ZX Spectrum market, mostly with action games that required the player to solve simple puzzles by combining different objects, such as the Dizzy series. While rooted in the ZX Spectrum, Codemasters did not write exclusively for this computer. They also released software for the Commodore 64, Commodore 16, BBC Micro, Acorn Electron, Amstrad CPC, Atari 8-bit, Commodore Amiga and Atari ST. They were famous for releasing a long series of simulator games, mostly sports simulations. This led to the parody Advanced Lawnmower Simulator being developed, praised to the skies and then published by Your Sinclair magazine as an April Fool's Day stunt. Codemasters were one of a number of software houses in the 1980s that only released low retail price titles. However, in 1992 they began to cut down on the budget releases in favor of full-price titles. As the 8-bit computer market diminished, Codemasters turned to developing for the 8-bit and 16-bit console markets, as well as moving away from their budget title legacy to more full-price games on the 16-bit computers. 1993 saw the last title in the budget Dizzy series, Crystal Kingdom Dizzy, although they released a full-price Dizzy game, Fantastic Dizzy, later. They had major success with the Micro Machines series and Pete Sampras Tennis on the Sega Mega Drive. Both franchises featured the J-Cart, allowing 2 extra controllers to be attached to the game cart without requiring Electronic Arts 4-way play or Sega's 4-player adapter. Codemasters is notable for making the large majority of games published by Camerica, which bypassed Nintendo's lockout chip by glitching it and produced unlicensed NES games. These NES games were known for being shiny gold and silver cartridges that were slightly different from normal NES cartridges in shape, though they still fit into the cartridge slot. Many Codemasters titles were also featured on Camerica's Aladdin Deck Enhancer. In 1990, Codemasters developed a device called the Power Pack, later renamed the Game Genie. It was a cheat cartridge for the NES, released in the US by Gallup and in Canada and the UK by Camerica. In an ultimately unsuccessful lawsuit, Nintendo sued Gallup in the case Gallup v. Nintendo, claiming that the Game Genie created derivative works in violation of copyright law. In an effort to establish themselves in the United States, they announced that they would launch a new development studio in Oakhurst, using the abandoned Sierra facilities and hiring much of Yosemite Entertainment's laid-off staff in mid-September 1999. Between 1998 and 2003, Codemasters dominated one area of game console entertainment when they teamed up with Jester Interactive Limited to publish their range of music creation software, for PlayStation, PlayStation 2 and PC, namely Music 2000, MTV Music Generator and MTV Music Generator 2. In 2003 this partnership was dissolved, with Jester releasing their own Music 3000 product. Codemasters released their final music-based product called MTV Music Generator 3 in 2004. Codemasters have since continued to release titles for later generation systems, such as the TOCA Touring Car Series, Colin McRae Rally Series, Brian Lara Cricket Series and Operation Flashpoint. They currently own the rights to use the title Operation Flashpoint, Dragon Rising, but have parted with the original developer Bohemia Interactive Studio. In spite of this, Codemasters released Operation Flashpoint, Elite, developed by Bohemia, for Xbox in October 2005. The year 2005 also saw the appointment of Rod Cousins, formerly of Acclaim, as managing director. In April 2007, Warner Bros. Home Entertainment Group entered into a game distribution agreement with Codemasters to distribute the company's titles in North America ending May 2008. Also in April, Codemasters launched the massively multiplayer online role-playing game, The Lord of the Rings Online, Shadows of Anmar in Europe on behalf of Turbine. In June, Codemasters were purchased by equity group Balderton Capital and they changed their logo to an interlocked metallic C&M. Later that month they released the latest in the Colin McRae Rally series, Colin McRae, Dirt. They also published Overlord and Clive Barker's Jericho. Following the death of Colin McRae on September 15, 2007, Codemasters released a public statement expressing their sorrow and support for the family. In March 2008, Codemasters announced a new deal with MageSco. The new partnership will focus on titles for DS and Wii, including Nano Stray 2, Toy Shop, Cake Mania 2 and Nancy Drew, The Mystery of the Cluebender Society for DS, and Wild Earth, African Safari, Our House and Cake Mania for Wii. In May, it was announced that Codemasters had won the rights to the Formula One license after Sony's deal ran out. Codemasters released their first Formula One game, F1 2009, on the Wii and PlayStation Portable in autumn 2009, and another similar game, F1 2010, on the PC, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360 in 2010. The game is based on the Dirt 2 engine. On April 8, 2008, Sega announced the closure of Sega Racing Studio. Although no reason was specified for the closure, it has been assumed it was due to lackluster sales of Sega Rally Revo. At a later time Sega announced none of the employees were folded into internal studios. On April 25, 2008, Codemasters bought Sega Racing Studio. The studio was headed by Guy Wilde, who was involved in the Colin McRae Rally games and was formerly the head of the studio behind the games and the series producer. Notable also in 2008 was the Darlings' recognition in the Queen's Birthday Honours, as both were appointed Commanders of the Order of the British Empire for services to the computer games industry. On April 5, 2010, Reliance Big Entertainment, an Indian company, acquired a 50% stake in the company. Later in 2010, Codemasters launched the free-to-play version of Lord of the Rings Online. While originally scheduled for September 10, it was delayed due to contractual reasons and launched on November 2. In May 2011, Codemasters transferred control of the European Lord of the Rings Online to Turbine, Incorporated. On June 3, 2011, the Codemasters.com website was breached. It is believed that the attacker was able to gain access to the personal information of registered users with Codemasters accounts. Codemasters notified its users about the attack via email on June 10, 2011, after which their websites were pulled down and users redirected to their Facebook page. In mid-2012, it was announced that Codemasters racing games, whether about to be produced or developed, would begin to be branded under the Codemasters Racing label. Dirt, Showdown and F1 2012 were the first racing titles to receive the new label name. On June 9, 2013, Reliance Big Entertainment has increased its stake in Codemasters from 50% to 60.41%, making Reliance the majority owner. Studios, Codemasters Southam, the primary studio and company headquarters. Codemasters Birmingham, acquired from Swordfish Studios in November 2008. Developers of F1 2010, F1 2011, F1 2012. F1 Race Stars and F1 2013. Located in Tricorn House, Edgbaston. Codemasters Studio SDNBHD in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, founded September 2006. A partnership between Codemasters UK and Malaysia's Vision New Media SDNBHD. The first game this studio contributed to was Race Driver Grid. Games. See also, Supersonic Software, references. External links, official website, Codemasters at DMOZ, Codemasters at World of Spectrum.